May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer.
Amen.
If you have extra time this summer, I suggest that you take advantage of that opportunity of time and read through the book of Genesis. It's one of the most fascinating books in the Bible, I think. So today we heard Sarah laugh. Sarah and Abraham have a bit of a sordid story amongst them. So I just want to give you the backstory that leads us to this particular point in time. Sarah and Abraham, they're asked to leave their home country. They fast forward. At one point, it's revealed that Sarah and Abraham are actually half brother and sister, but married. Before we get to this particular chapter, the one preceding it, we found, or actually a few chapters ahead of that, Sarah and Abraham have received this great promise from God, that from them will come generations that will multiply the earth. But this doesn't happen right away. So Sarah gets to be a little bit antsy, and she has a slave with her, a servant, that Hagar, who is an Egyptian, that she gives to Abraham as his wife. They have relations, and from then Hagar becomes pregnant and gets a lot of attention from the women in the community, attention that Sarah herself is not getting because she is barren and looked down upon. That's too much for Sarah. So what does she do? She treats Hagar harshly, and Hagar is driven out into the wilderness where God finds her. God comforts Hagar and sends Hagar back into that household. The child Ishmael is born. And then Hagar, once again, fast forward, has some trouble with Hagar. But before that happens, Abraham has an encounter with God, and God says, your name will no longer be Abram, but Abraham. And your wife Sarai, her name will be Sarah. And guess what? You all will have a child. And what did Abraham do? We missed this part of the story. Abraham, we're told, laughed. He fell down on the ground and laughed at the absurdity that Sarah, a 90-year-old woman, and him, almost 100-year-old man, that they would have a child. That sounds utterly ridiculous. But we don't hear about, in the lectionary choices, we don't hear that Abraham laughed. We only hear that Sarah laughed. And Sarah only laughed because Abraham, for whatever reason, chose not to share this magnificent news that he received from God. Now, if you're in a relationship, you probably know what that's like. Your spouse or partner has some sort of news that you would have liked to have known, and they choose to keep it to themselves. And you just don't understand it. Sarah probably couldn't understand it. So there we have this particular scripture for today from Genesis, where the three angels, God with maybe some attendants, who knows? But we know that it is God speaking to Abraham, and Abraham pulls out all the stops for hospitality, and Sarah gets involved. And Sarah overhears God saying that Sarah will have a child and God will come back in a year. And yes, Sarah laughs, and then she denies that she laughed. Now, the one phrase, the one sentence that sticks out for me today, for this particular moment in time, is anything too wonderful for God? Is anything too wonderful for God? Sarah and Abraham thought to be a couple well beyond childbearing years. do have a child. The disciples, a ragtag group of people. We heard the list, it even includes Judas, the one who would betray, Matthew, the tax collector, some zealots, some fishermen. Unlikely sorts of people become part of God's wonderful story. And of course, the ultimate wonder is the resurrection itself. I want to invite you to lean into this wonderful aspect of God, particularly at this particular time. Although the world is still enveloped with pandemic, with cases spiking in different states, different places in the world. People are moving about the cabin of the earth, some wearing face coverings, others not. Some have the face covering below the nostrils or below the mouth. If we didn't know any better, we would think everything was okay, that there was no virus, except for the fact that there are still people, many people who are unemployed, many people still hungry, many people affected by homelessness. The protests that continue are yet another reminder that things are not right in our society. With all of this coming together, many could feel hopeless, thinking, well, I'll just wait it out. At some point it will be over. But we have to ask ourselves, is anything too wonderful for God? Nothing is too wonderful for God. Even though times may seem bleak overall, we will get to the other side. And each of you who joined by Zoom, appearing as just a little square, a little block, maybe you're visible, maybe you have other people in your home who are there on the screen. Perhaps you've decided to mute yourself and to stop your video for different reasons. Maybe you joined by phone. But I'm keenly aware that within each space, there is a life. And within that space, even within your own life, you may be struggling with something. So layer upon layer of what's happening in the world is also something that could be happening with you. You could be feeling hopeless, doubtful, discouraged. Remember, nothing is too wonderful for God. Weeping and distress will spend perhaps many nights, but one day joy will come in the morning. Joy will come. In some instances in the society, it may not come in our lifetime, but it will come. As people of faith, we're called to keep that going, to keep the faith, to do what we can. The person who's next to you that you see in the Zoom box, you may not know them, but for now they are your neighbor. So I invite you to think about the neighbor who is next to you in the Zoom box. Say a little prayer. Ask that God is with that person. They may be struggling. They may need a blessing. They may think no one cares about them. So right now, know that that person who's next to you in the Zoom box, make a commitment. Say a little prayer. Ask that that person knows the presence of God, that the Spirit of God is with them in this very moment. Nothing is too wonderful for God. God allows community to form regardless, because God is about community. that we can be thankful. Nothing is too wonderful for God. To be encouraged, have faith,